there is a growing number of private cannabis clubs and medical marijuana dispensaries. And as far as I can work out, the legality of these is still in question. There are occasional raids, not too many of them. I haven't read or heard of a case of somebody being picked up for possession of dagga or smoking dagga in a place that they're not supposed to. We're supposed to do it in private only. Paul-Michael Keichal is an expert in the law relating to cannabis, joins us now. Am I missing something, Paul-Michael? Good afternoon. Has there been clarity?
Good afternoon, John. Thanks for having me on again now that you're done lying to us about the weather. There has not been absolute clarity, John. We still remain in this, I suppose, unwanted grey space where certain mavericks are pushing the boundaries beyond the sense of what is reasonable and rational, and some people are falling behind by trying to remain within the confines of the law. So no, you haven't missed anything, John.
What is reasonable and rational in terms of the laws that pertain at the moment?
Right. So we're gonna have to break this down, and I'll try to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. But there needs to be a distinction drawn between a so-called cannabis cultivation club or a cannabis grow club and what some people are holding themselves out to be. In other words, medicinal cannabis dispensaries. A cannabis grow club, if it is correctly operated, is based on an interpretation of the 2018 Prince judgment that started all of this. And really what it does is it says, well, if you have the legal right without fear of criminal consequence to cultivate your own cannabis in private and to consume that, well, then that's a right that can be outsourced. You don't need to own the private space. Nor is your gardener a criminal for occasionally watering your cannabis plants. So a properly operated cannabis grow club is a formalization of that concept. A properly operated cannabis grow club is not a club that sells cannabis, but only to members, which is a lot of what people are doing. Conversely, you have a lot of people who are holding themselves out to be medicinal cannabis dispensaries. Some bother with obtaining a medical doctor's script first, some don't. And then what a lot of people are doing are utilizing this mechanism in terms of Section 21 of the Medicines Act, which is supposed to be an exceptional mechanism for very sick people to get their hands on life-saving or life-changing medicine. But I suppose, for lack of a better term, it's a mechanism that's now being abused because people are being dispensed with cannabis for the unexceptional. You know, you go in and you complain about mild insomnia or some backache, and you get your so-called medicinal cannabis under the auspices of Section 21.
In terms of handing over medical cannabis, what is legal? Only when it is accompanied with a prescription from a doctor?
Well, you're supposed to get a prescription from a doctor, and a doctor is supposed to make a Section 21 application to SAHPRA on your behalf. As I said, it's supposed to be exceptional. There's supposed to be high barriers to entry. And then SAHPRA is supposed to give a Section 21 authorization on a case-by-case basis that's only valid for 6 months. So it's certainly not the case that you can just walk into a shop with a doctor's script and walk out with cannabis without more having been asked of you.
Okay, and law enforcement seems to be occasional and patchy when it comes to this.
Absolutely, John, and I can't say, there's definitely a mix of between a failure to appreciate what are sometimes very technical laws and obviously an absence of enforcement manpower. On a case-by-case basis, I can't say, why there is so little enforcement. But as you correctly pointed out in the introduction, there have been some raids. It does seem to be quickening up the pace. So definitely at the top, especially because the hawks are sometimes involved. There does seem to be a recognition, at least at a high level, that what is being conducted is per se criminal.
And is there legislation pending which will clear all of this up and make the situation as crystal clear as law ever gets, so that people who might in good faith believe what they're doing is legal will no longer be able to believe that, because the law will be so clear that they will have no choice but to accept that what they are doing is not within the bounds of the law, or is?
Yeah, look, John, whether legislation is pending depends on whether or what you would define pending to mean. I mean, it is on the cards. We've recently had the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act passed into law, although it still needs to be proclaimed or activated by the president. So it's sitting on the law books. It's just not an active piece of law. And then Section 1(2) of that says, well, you're not a criminal in terms of this act if you possess a license or a permit in terms of the regulations to the Private Purposes Act or another act of Parliament. So what seems to be reasonably anticipated to be on the horizon, is that there are going to be amendments to other acts of Parliament to start incrementally or iteratively creating a legal cannabis regime, not only for medicinal cannabis, but hopefully for so-called recreational cannabis.
Thank you very much to Paul-Michael Keichal, an expert in the law relating to cannabis products, cannabis dispensing.